Hi skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com. Welcome to episode 13, lucky 13. It's Friday, which is a little nerve-wracking. But yeah, we'll call this the Friday, the 13th episode of Top 5 Fridays, which is exciting. I think it's really cool that we're up to number 13 of these. It feels like yesterday I just started them from my basement, and now we're here in the studio. Speaking of which, you'll notice that this is a little bit of a different set than what we normally do for these Top 5 Fridays videos. The reason being is we're working hard on ski test videos, and this is actually pretty much the exact set for what we're doing for the 2021 ski test videos. So pretty exciting. We've never really done anything like this before in terms of like shorter videos than our full-length reviews with spoken commentary. In the past, our ski test videos have just been kind of action shots and stuff like that to go on along with written results. So we got a whole new set of stuff for you this year, and we're a little bit less than a month away from releasing the 2021 ski test results. So yeah, getting pretty excited. It's really fun for me. It's a huge project for me over the summer, and it's fun to see it come together and work on it. There's a lot of different pieces that all have to come together. But it's we're working hard on it, and I think it's going to be awesome, and I think you guys are really going to like it. So that's why I'm here. I thought it would be fun to just kind of give you a little sneak peek of what the ski test videos are going to look like. So yeah, keep an eye out for that, but we are still a little less than a month away out. So that's it. That's kind of the housekeeping news. I always like to start with that stuff, and now let's get straight to the week's news. First is a COVID-19 update. So as you know, we've been talking about this basically all summer long. Resorts in Australia opened and did so with some restrictions, but pretty much opened back up at least to a fairly significant capacity. Now recently, and The Guardian actually is the site that we're referencing here for the kind of bulk news or the leading news on this topic. So metropolitan Melbourne in Australia is going back into stage 3 lockdown for 6 weeks, basically after they've had a spike in COVID-19 cases, similar to what we're having in the United States right now, I suppose. And as a result of that, even though these resorts are like 4 hours outside, Vail Resorts has shut down lift operations both at Hotham and Falls Creek. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that first one 100% correctly, so forgive me if I'm not. But pretty interesting. So Vail was pretty quick to kind of pull the plug on lift operations. But I think what's most interesting here is they aren't just shutting down the mountains. They're actually not only, but most significantly, they're stopping the actual lift operations, but they're keeping a lot of other stuff going. So uphill access remains. There'll still be ski patrol, which is kind of cool. They're not running basically their full medical staff, but they are going to have ski patrol. A lot of things in the village will still be open. Cross-country ski trails are going to be groomed and open. They have tubing, or I don't even know if they call it tubing, snow play and tobogganing, which I can only assume is tubing. If you've been there and I'm wrong, let me know. And then they'll also have childcare too. So it's really mostly just you won't be able to get on the lift. So what have we learned out of this situation? We've talked about this before, is having resorts opening both in Europe and Australia, it gives us kind of an opportunity to look at what they're doing and learn from it. So what have we learned? I think the biggest thing that we've learned here is that Vail Resorts as an organization, they are obviously pretty quick to shut things down if they feel like they need to, which I think is a good thing. It's if we get in a similar situation in the United States when our ski season starts, it's nice to know. I think at least for me, it provides a little bit more confidence in knowing that they're going to act quickly and they're going to act accordingly. And then we've also learned that uphill access and touring may be, we may have more access to that, more unrestricted access to that in this upcoming ski season than lift operations. Hopefully that's not the case, but I think that's really interesting that they kept uphill access open and just shut down the lifts. So at the end of this last season, we saw a huge spike in demand for touring gear, and I certainly wouldn't be surprised if that demand carries into this season or maybe even goes up a little bit, especially if other resorts follow suit or if we start to get news from resorts in the United States about their plans. So if you don't have a touring setup, I would probably consider at least looking into one. It might not be right for you. It's not right for everybody. Touring's a lot of work, but it can be a lot of fun too. So maybe something just to put in the back of your mind as a potential new activity for you this coming winter, as a way to get out and get some exercise. I was reading through a lot of comments on this too, and a lot of people were chiming in and encouraging people to go cross-country skiing too, which is a very similar activity. And I would do the same. I would encourage, if you're an alpine skier and you've never really cross-country skied before, try it. It's less barriers of entry to cross-country skiing than alpine touring. It's fairly expensive to get a full alpine touring setup, but you can get a entry level or even like a pretty nice intermediate cross-country ski package for a very reasonable price, and it's a lot of fun. It's not the same as alpine skiing, but it's a different kind of fun. I've spent a lot of time on cross-country skis myself. So that's the start to our week. Next up, we have both the COOs from Park City and Deer Valley kind of chimed in with their thoughts on the H-2B and J-1 visa suspension. So we talked about this recently too. Both those programs have been shut down, which I think the number was about 10,000 total employees in the ski industry alone were coming from those two programs. So from Park City, it's Mike Gore. From Deer Valley, it's Todd Shallon. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing your last name wrong, Todd. But essentially what they're saying is that both resorts are working on plans that anticipate dramatically fewer international employees. So they've taken what was 5 departments. There were 5 departments within their organizations where they were hiring international employees. Now they're only focusing on one. I couldn't find details as to what that one department was, but that's basically what they're saying. Now, I do think, although these two resorts are essentially saying that they think they're going to be able to make this work and they're already making plans to make this work, I think they're in somewhat of a unique position in the fact that they're pretty close proximity to Salt Lake City. So they've got like 1.2 million people in the Salt Lake City metropolitan area to kind of pull from. And not every ski resort, especially some major ski resorts out west, not every ski resort is in a position like that. There's all sorts of resorts where there's just not nearly that many people nearby, and it would be drastically harder to kind of, compensate for the employees that they're losing in this program. So definitely we're gonna have to continue watching that. But I thought it was cool that we got some insights from chief operating officers. Third, if you remember, we were talking about a little bit of a disagreement or kind of a debate between the U.S. Ski Team and NCAA skiing. Now, a U.S. Ski Team member, Bryce Bennett, basically wrote his own letter. If you remember, we kind of read some other letters last time. He wrote his own letter from his perspective and basically aligned his thoughts with Tiger Shaw's from the U.S. Ski Team, in the sense that they're pretty different things, the NCAA circuit and the World Cup circuit. So his direct quote was, "Those are two different sports. They're not even comparable." And while I think that's going a little bit far, like they're obviously comparable, they're both ski racing. But while that's going a little bit far, he did cite things like equipment. So there's, in his opinion, there's a drastic difference in the level of equipment and the availability of equipment for World Cup ski racers or those on that path and NCAA racers. Also the level of competition, which I think is relatively obvious. And then he also talked about course sets. So the fact that NCAA course sets are so much different than World Cup or FIS course sets, which I thought was very interesting. And then he also cites just kind of the overall attitudes of athletes. So I think it's really beneficial and interesting to hear from a U.S. ski team member. Now, even if all of these things are true, and I'm sure they are, I don't see any reason for him to not tell the truth or an accurate story. I still think they could make some changes to maybe bringing them closer together is not the right way to think about it, but maybe there's a way to work something into NCAA racing more so than what they already have as a tool for, maybe the top 5% of those NCAA racers. Maybe they can have some different opportunities than the others. I still think this is something that it's worth looking more into this. It's worth for these two organizations to figure out ways to kind of coexist a little bit more seamlessly. And I think it'd just be great for ski racing in the United States in general. The United States has not historically been like one of the leaders in alpine ski racing. So let's maybe try and make some changes to improve that. I think that'd be really cool. Although Michaela Schifrin's definitely doing her part to help that. So we need to get some guys on the men's side to start putting up Michaela Schifrin-esque results. Ted Ligety, I'm looking at you, even though you're getting older. You can still do it. Next up, I like this story a lot. Hopefully you do too. We've talked a lot, a fairly common theme in Top 5 Fridays is season passes, like the collective season passes, so to speak. So not necessarily in the videos, but in the written portion of our Top 5 news articles. In the past, we've talked a lot about the different options, the pricing, the strategies of these companies. And now we have a new option. So I've got a whole new option for those of you out there that like to buy these collective season passes, and this is heli-skiing. So this is the first ever season pass for heli-skiing specifically from a company called heli.life, which is basically an organization where you can, you book your heli-skiing through them, and then they reach out to like a whole bunch of different people across all sorts of different organizations. They're basically like a trip planning, organizing third-party site. They are offering two different passes. One is the Alpha Pass. So for just $1,000, you will get 10% off bookings, off any bookings, off the base price, actually, specifically the base price of any bookings through their heli platform. So I actually think that's fairly reasonable. If you're planning, I would venture a guess that if you're planning multiple heli-skiing trips, something like this would pay itself off pretty quickly. Now, what I think is, it's fine. It's for this is reasonable too, I suppose. So starting at $100,000, you can get a fully customizable season pass with unlimited heli-skiing anywhere in the world. You can set your own schedule. You tell them where you want to go, when you want to go there, and you'll go. Now, the more I read into this, at first I was like, that's insane. Like $100,000, you can't go heli-skiing everywhere in the world for $100,000. And then I had to remind myself that it starts at $100,000. So while that sounds extreme, it would be an insane value if for $100,000 you were just like, yeah, I want to go here all winter, like all year long. There's no way $100,000 would cover that. And I'm curious, I don't know, if anybody is out there that wants to go through this process and like maybe submit for your customizable unlimited heli-skiing pass and then let us know the cost, I would be fascinated to know the difference between that cost and the cost of buying your own helicopter, hiring a pilot and a guide. Like what's the difference? And I don't know what the helicopter resale market's like. I mean, this has got to be an option. If you're in this financial situation and you're considering something like this, how far away are you from considering your own heli? So I thought that was really interesting. So if you're interested in a heli-skiing season pass, you can get one for the first time ever. And that's it for news topics. Then we have our edits of the week. First one is called Hillbilly Function, which is just some really fun, good vibe summer park skiing from Mount Hood. It's really fun to see that stuff coming out of Mount Hood. I've talked to some people that have been skiing Mount Hood and Timberline specifically, and just say how much fun it is. Jeff Curry, who skis longtime line skier, he's been ripping it up. I've seen a lot of stuff from him. So hope everyone out there is having a lot of fun, and if you can't, you can be like me and live vicariously through things like this. Second edit of the week is a season edit from Mark Ortiz. I will admit that I didn't know who Mark Ortiz was when I first saw this video, and I clicked play, and like right away he drops my favorite quote from Shane McConkey. So I was pulled in from the start and knew that it was going to be a really good edit. If anyone who likes Shane that much, or as much as I do, and knows that quote and is going to throw that quote out, I guarantee I'm going to like their skiing. And the more I watched it, it really just it feels like his skiing in this edit in general is kind of a tribute to Shane. Phenomenal skier overall, very well-rounded skier too, and he even does some of that ski base jumping, which is just insane to me. But yeah, check that out, especially if you're a fan of Shane McConkey. I think you'll really enjoy it. And then last, we have a video from Down to Ride called The Bike Life Circus Training Ground, which is really interesting. Some crazy bike trickery. Usually Matt, my esteemed colleague, will throw in at least one non-ski related video, especially this time of year. So check that out too. It's a pretty good one, pretty fun watch. And that's it. So thanks as always for joining me. Hope you're enjoying these top 5 news videos. I had a handful of digital meetings with different ski companies today, and we've got some really excited content planned for later this summer through the fall. I can't tell you anything about it just yet, but I have said things in these Top 5 Fridays videos over the past few weeks that might hint at what we're planning on doing. So I won't say anything more than that, but keep an eye out for some new different content from us down the road. And yeah, thanks again for joining me, and we'll see you guys soon.